Ho ho ho! Hello everyone. We are back. Free trying to post 9? We're in 9 now?
I think it's 9. Did
Yeah.
I send you 8?
This is 9. Yeah. I uploaded 8 already.
Okay.
So this is gonna be so nice for me because we're on one microphone because Ari came back to Zhongli for a day. Seriously, the last episode was the worst to edit. I edited that thing for I don't know. It was like an hour-long podcast. I probably edited that thing for like 3 or 4 hours. The first part, you got messed up.
It's because we're like in a rush. It's always hard because like there's lots of stuff to talk about. We're in a rush and lots of pressure.
There was some part in the middle, I forgot when I edited it. Something happened where one of us had to pause. And so
You paused. You broke a glass.
Oh yeah, that glass fell off the table.
Yeah.
So
Abby broke a glass.
Abby's fault. Nah, it was my fault. And so I broke that, and then we paused at different times and started at different times. So oh man, there was seriously so much. But I think the episode actually came out pretty good. I haven't listened to it since I edited the full thing, but I think it's okay. So, but that was a real interesting one. Did our predictions come true about the midterms?
Well, I think we don't have any independent predictions because we're not independent pollsters. So basically everything that the poll said was essentially correct, that the Democrats would take the House and the Republicans would take the Senate. But we didn't say anything about the governor races, and that's essentially what happened.
I think I said I wanted Stacey Abrams to win, and I
don't know who is Stacey Abrams.
She's the Democratic governor
candidate
for governor in Georgia.
The gubernatorial candidate for
Gubernatorial. I hate that word. Just like I hate when you have to...
hate women.
No, I love women. When you have to say attorney, you say one attorney general, but you say 2 attorneys general.
Yeah.
I hate that. I think that's...
Makes perfect sense.
I think it's stupid. Doesn't make any sense at all.
Well, I hate attorneys in general.
Yeah. Good point. But yeah, she's Stacey Abrams. She's running against Brian Kemp, and right now the race is still not called. So she's because I was pulling for her, Andrew Gillum in Florida, and obviously for Beto in Texas.
Huh, that was never gonna happen.
It came close. Of course, yeah. I mean,
it actually didn't come that close. The end of the margin was like 10%, 12%. You gonna Google it?
Was it? Yeah, I'm gonna look it up real quick. I mean, let me see.
I think he was too far off from the majority of Texans, because like Texas is basically split. You've got a fairly liberal base in certain urban centers, and you've got a large Hispanic population which tend to vote Democrat, and then you've got basically conservative white rural voters who make up probably just around 55% of the state. And
no, it was Ted Cruz got 50.9% of the vote, and Beto got 48.3%.
Okay, well I'm dead wrong. That's surprising, but if Beto had made a bigger effort to drop some of his... See, here's the grounds on which I disagree with some on the left. I think that he shouldn't have pushed social issues so hard. Economic, democratic issues are bread and butter, but in a state like Texas, you're not doing yourself any favors by talking about abolishing ICE or like...
I don't think he pushed abolishing ICE that much.
Did he mention it?
I don't even know if he mentioned abolishing ICE. The one thing that I could say for social issues is maybe like he talked about the Kaepernick thing, but even that, I saw multiple times groups of old white people applauding him.
It's true, because he was great. Those economic issues, those are the new bread and butter, and they should be the bread and butter of the Democratic Party. But I listened to the first debate, and I forget on a couple of issues, basically. Anytime he got to a social issue, he kind of just stumbled and took like a very vague line where he didn't really have a good defensible answer for anything on any of these social issues.
I would say, yeah, his debating wasn't the greatest.
It was sad.
Honestly, I think part of that is that he wasn't being populist enough. He wanted to go into platitudes and stuff. I think, honestly, he should have gone harder on Cruz.
Oh, he should have. Cruz is garbage. I agree with you.
He's a worm, man. That guy is a slime ball. He could have easily destroyed him, and he did it at the end. It was one of the last debates they did. He finally started taking a turn where he was basically like calling him out. He was like talking about how he doesn't defend his wife and stuff like that, and how he's basically very unbecoming of Texas, which considers itself very strong and for like lack of a better word, like masculine and things like that. But he did it it was too little too late. I mean, he got close, and the fact that he got that close in Texas, which hasn't elected a statewide Democrat in, I believe, since the 1980s. I believe was the last time they elected a statewide Democrat. So he did very well, and I think when he was doing his like stump speeches and stuff, I think he did really well. But yeah, the debates, I will agree, especially the first couple of debates, he didn't do as much. I think that was Andrew Gillum's problem too. One was obviously voter disenfranchisement was terrible in Florida. We just saw that they just restored 1.4 million people's right to vote with the proposition that allows felons to vote again.
Yeah,
which is good. That needs to happen everywhere. But he also, both of them, I think they went too centrist. Like Gillum was,
by the way, I want to
with Hillary.
These are ex-felons. These aren't like felons who are serving time in prison. And when you talk, because the way that it's portrayed, when you use the word felon to describe anyone who's ever committed a felony, that's a little bit misleading. Like somebody who commits a felony when they're 19 years old, maybe serves whatever. Let's say it's a felony. Okay, let's say they serve a year in prison at best, because lots of drug crimes that aren't even imprisonable are still considered felonies.
Yeah.
Let's say they serve a minimal sentence. Are they a felon for the rest of their life? If you want to vote because of a marijuana offense, should you be labeled a felon until you're 60?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the way it is. Yeah.
Well, the point is they shouldn't be labeling felons to begin with. A felon, maybe if they're in prison, if they're still serving their time, but afterwards they should be labeled perhaps ex-felon, not still felon, in my opinion.
They should just be considered a rehabilitated part of society if the system does what it's supposed to do. They should be rehabilitated. Obviously that's not always the case, but I know people that are quote unquote felons or ex-felons, and they're like some of the nicest people I know. They went to jail for having too much weed or something like that, and it's absurd.
Too much weed in their bum.
And too much weed in their pocket, probably, but
same place.
It's absurd the level to which these people get like ostracized out of society. It's preposterous.
Yeah, the eye fell off.
Yeah, I know. I actually with that pen, I was trying to take
the eye off.
No, I was trying to take the sheath off the pen, and
it's getting very sexual.
I pulled the eye off, but then I lit the eye with a lighter and then stuck it back on. So, and I made the eyes uneven. Don't be pushing the table around and mess up the audio. You see that?
Oh, I didn't know it was still recording.
Oh yeah, come on, man.
Okay, fine.
All right, I'm gonna push it one more time, but I'm gonna delete this sound so no one will hear this. Love you.
Love you too.
Okay. All right. Mine didn't make as much sound as yours. You're obviously inferior at pushing tables to me.
Okay, let's talk
let's
talk about voter disenfranchisement. And let's talk specifically about the state of Arizona.
Let's talk specifically about you getting voter disenfranchised.
Okay, well, listen. What I heard, and I couldn't re-find the source for this. I read it, and then I couldn't exactly find the source. So I'm not sure this is 100% accurate. But from what I understood, basically, they've had a signature verification process in place in Arizona for several years. So basically, if you send in a mail-in ballot, which at this point 75% of Arizona voters do, they'll verify your signature against the signatures on record, which itself is stupid because I think a signed ballot should be considered a legal document. It doesn't need to be re-verified upon being received.
I would agree.
That's moronic.
Yeah.
What I read, though, I think this is accurate, is that in 2016, basically, if your signature verification didn't match, they immediately disposed of your ballot.
Jeez.
So it's possible that I mean, at least from what I read, I think 2,700 people's votes were discounted in that year. But this year, my vote was flagged again for the signature verification issue. So I wonder if this happened to me before too. Basically, now there's a new policy in place that in Arizona, if they flag your signature, you can defend yourself. You can appeal it.
Yeah.
So they think they give you 5 days until 5 days after the election. And the Arizona State Republicans are trying to fight that. It's basically saying if your vote wasn't counted on election day night, you should throw it out, which is garbage and which is obviously partisan because they think that later ballots are going to help the Democratic candidate. Like these policies have been in place, at least the policies for counting votes up to 9 days after the election have been in place for a long time, and now all of a sudden they're suing the state, in a close race.
Yeah, they only care when it affects them. Absolutely.
Show their true colors.
I mean, well, what we talked about, even not directly tied to that, like we were talking about earlier, in Kansas and in Georgia, you had you had representatives who were the Republicans both in Kansas and in Georgia were the secretaries of state. So they're in charge of essentially voter disenfranchisement, throwing people off the rolls. And Kemp in Georgia threw 1 million people off the rolls, and the vast majority of those who were African American, and his opponent was also African American. Not to mention that African Americans vote in higher percentages for Democrats. They vote disproportionately for Democrats. So it's like, yeah, exactly. Especially lately when you have a ghoul fucking troll as our president who's just like doesn't give a shit about anyone who's not a fucking white person.
I've never seen anyone. I just want to. The thing with the press conference the other day, I've never seen any modern politician behave that way towards the press. He obviously has some severe emotional problems. He seemed like he acted the same way that I act when I'm in a class of 6-year-olds who are like out of control.
Yeah.
Like, no, stop, sit down.
Yeah.
Like, you don't tell an adult to sit down. That's so disrespectful.
Yeah, and
he thinks
he acts like
he needs to be bowed down to.
Yeah, he acts for lack of a better word like a dictator. He does so badly want to be a dictator.
He does. He wants people to like him because he's a sad little man with very little hands.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, he is just. It's always conversation. It's always
looking at other people's hands and comparing himself, and it just escalates into these like battles of masculinity. To
Ted Cruz, wife is ugly, and he wishes his hands were as big as mine. But
did you see the whole thing? The entire thing went down to what Jim Acosta was doing with his hands on the microphone. Put down the microphone.
Yeah. No.
Don't touch the lady with your hands.
Yeah, exactly. Don't touch the lady. Did you see that they've doctored that film?
I saw that Sarah Huckabee Sanders posted a doctored
She
video.
posted it and it was doctored. So I don't know if they in-house doctored it themselves.
Hashtag fake news.
Hashtag fake news. She always
posting the definition of posting fake news.
It literally is like I saw a video later of
Sarah Huckabee Sanders should resign for that.
Oh my god, I wish she would. Well, she and a few other people,
and she should be popped for the balloon that she is.
Jesus. All right. Well, she and a few other Republicans in his cabinet have been they should resign because they violated the Hatch Act.
Well, he should resign for firing Jeff Sessions and introducing a convicted fraudster to take over instead of the existing deputy attorney general who was the next in chain of command, and then unconstitutionally finding a CNN poster, like lackey poster boy who talked about Trump.
It's absurd, man. Yeah.
I forget what the guy's name is. You know about like the whole thing? He's on record basically. There are records that he went on CNN and became a CNN correspondent so he could talk about Trump so that he could get a position within the administration. It was completely deliberate. So now that as if it wasn't bad enough that he was a fraudster involved in a company that was forced by the FTC to pay $26 million in fines for not doing what they wanted, and then on his own personal legal head sending threatening messages to anyone who posted bad things online about his fraud company. He's a fraudster and a Donald Trump lackey, and he shouldn't have been appointed to an acting AG position. They should have gone to the deputy attorney general because they need the consent of Congress in order to appoint an AG.
Of course, of course they should, but
no.
Oh my gosh, man, and not to mention the fact.
Lindsey Graham backtracked, of course.
Of course, I posted that. I posted something on the thing today about how he said, if this happens, wait, what's Lindsey? Oh, Lindsey Graham is.
There'll be holy hell to pay.
Yeah, he was. Well, I swear to you, if they pass this boy, if they remove Jeff Sessions from our legislature, I will just wilt. I swear to you, it's absurd. He doesn't care. He doesn't care about anything. All those Republicans.
Lindsey Graham is on Trump's crotch.
Yeah,
he's
riding jocks hard.
What did he call him before? What was I forget the language he used before.
What did Lindsey Graham say about Trump?
It wasn't sniveling coward. That was Ted Cruz.
You're a sniveling coward, and leave Heidi the hell alone.
He called him a bigot. I remember that, and no longer. Now they're friends.
Of course, they none of them actually care.
Talk about lack of dignity.
But yeah, I mean, he said about this that there would be hell to pay, and so here you go. When Graham was running for president in 2016,
Graham was running for president. I forgot about that.
Yeah, he ran for president in 2016. So of course he got crushed because he's a weak individual. But he called Trump a jackass, a race-baiting bigot, and the most flawed nominee in the history of the Republican Party. Those are all direct quotes. So and now he's just a like low-level bootlicker that no one could care about. No one basically.
Just like Jeff Sessions.
Yeah, I would say the average American doesn't know who either of those people are, and they couldn't have really been president, but they could have been a nominee. That's the best the Republican Party has to offer. That's what we're dealing with right now. Is people like that they put up against the Democrats, and the Democrats run subpar candidates because they're paid to lose. So we just have these worthless people running against each other, and then once they get in the presidency, we're supposed to like respect them or think highly of them or something. It's absurd, man.
Anyway, he's a one-term president, and he will go down in history as the worst president in the history of the United States. He tarnished the office in every way he could. Tried to destroy the institution of the presidency. And you know me, I'm not like a super partisan guy.
Yeah.
But Donald Trump is a classless man who basically urinated all over like the old portraits of Lincoln and George Washington. He's the man that would bring like a bunch of strippers into the White House.
He probably has.
And then have a golden shower. He's
like he
sad.
Did, like he did in Russia, right?
Like he did in Russia.
All right, so you want to hear a funny story talking about Lincoln?
Lincoln had a golden shower?
Maybe. But Trump said that he had higher poll numbers than Lincoln.
Oh, really? Because there was polling back then?
There wasn't polling back then. That's the point, is there wasn't polling back then. He claims that he had higher poll numbers than Lincoln.
He's just making,
Okay, so there's a story recently, I don't remember who it was from, Washington Post, maybe CNN. They were doing fact checking on him. They said he lies an average of 8, I think it's 8.5. It was 8 or 8.5 times a day.
It does. I mean, we all know that he just lies to receipt.
But that's absurd, man. If Obama would have lied once, it would have been.
Well, he lied about his birth certificate.
4 weeks. Yeah. Aside from being like a Muslim sleeper cell, like he didn't lie about anything, you know. So, but he just. Every time I listen to the news, I literally like have to hold back from just going, "What the fuck is going on?" Because like it's so infuriating, man. This is like we live in the fucking upside down world right now.
It's pretty weird.
We live in the fucking bizarro universe.
Were you watching Stranger Things?
No. Why?
Why are you using those words?
The bizarro universe is from Superman.
Oh, is it? Oh,
yeah.
Maybe they stole it. Okay.
Upside down world, I don't know, but everything is upside down, so that's why I say that. But yeah, man, it's absolutely absurd. Like,
did you watch Seinfeld? Did you watch Seinfeld back in the day?
No, but okay. So quick, I'll let you say what you're gonna. Oh yeah, I did watch Seinfeld back.
You forgot what Seinfeld was?
No. I thought you meant like, do I watch it a lot? I guess I did. Like with my dad, I watched a lot of episodes of Seinfeld. Yeah, I've seen a lot of episodes. Why?
It's not relevant.
That's okay. It doesn't matter. We're having fun. This is a laid back episode.
There's a great video on YouTube where there's like an old WWE wrestling game, which is like a piece of trash.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, you can take people's pictures and like have them kind of put in the game. So they made a matchup with Jerry, like the character Jerry and the character George, and had them wrestling in the game. It's one of the best YouTube videos I've seen in a while.
Okay, speaking of that, and then moving on to another all Seinfeld related. Let's stay on the topic of Seinfeld. I saw a Doom edit of Seinfeld. They modded Doom, the original PC game, to be Seinfeld, and so it's like going into like all the rooms, and Seinfeld's just like, "What's the deal with that?" And it just the Doom guy just shoots him in the chest with a shotgun, and then Kramer's just like, "Whoa!" And he just shoots him in the chest. It's so weird. I don't remember where I saw that, but it was very bizarre. But one thing that I think you should actually check out, like that's a silly video you can check out in a couple minutes, but there's a podcast called Grubstakers, and it's about billionaires. So they like investigate a billionaire's life and basically show like how they like cheated their way to the top, basically, or like got like a bunch of money. Unfortunately, they don't have one about Donald Trump because
he's not a billionaire.
Probably not. You're probably right about that. But the reason I thought of that is because they had one on Jerry Seinfeld.
Jerry Seinfeld's not a billionaire, is he? He's not a billionaire. He is not.
It's about net worth. I think he is a billionaire. I can check his net worth right now if you want. But
what, from acting on Seinfeld? I mean, he didn't even create the show. I guess it's named after him, but
but he got, and he's still getting residuals. So he has so much money right now. He literally has.
Well, maybe I should be a stand-up.
It says
$950 million.
Okay. So there are maybe 1 or 2 episodes they do where the person is like slightly under $1 billion. So maybe this is one of them.
That's
but he's
insane.
So close to having $1 billion.
Let me see, Mr. Bean, 130 million. How is Jenna Marbles? It's just all the links here. 4 million. Ooh,
that's 4 million. 4 million is I'm okay with someone having $4 million. I don't know if I can accept anyone having $1 billion. That's absurd. Not mention like someone like Jeff Bezos who has like hundreds of billions of dollars. Like he could solve almost every problem in the world right now.
What Bill Gates? 91 billion. Jesse Jackson. Joe Jackson.
You just want to
500 million?
You just want to read through the billionaires list?
No, I'm done. I'm wasting time.
I mean, we could. It's pretty absurd. I mean, like you look at the Walton family and people like that. They just have so much money. And the Walton family, they didn't do anything. Literally, those people didn't do anything.
Well, they had a rich papa.
The dad, of course, did something, but again, I really would suggest that people go listen to this podcast. If you like listening to podcasts, Grubstakers is so good. It's really funny. It's a bunch of comedians, but they do like pretty good research, and they basically tell you how like these people are screwing their workers over, like fighting against unions.
Exactly like our podcast.
Exactly.
Couple of comedians, well research.
Couple of comedians reading Wikipedia pages, talking to you guys about it. No, actually, they basically make fun of themselves about just basically reading Wikipedia pages, but I feel like we do a decent amount of research for this show, especially for like our articles and stuff.
Yeah, I'm a professional researcher.
I mean, you are literally getting...
I'm a scientist.
You're getting a PhD right now, and you're a chemist. A PhD slash chemist. That's
next chemist.
Well, you were a chemist. Once a chemist, always a chemist, as I always say.
I wonder if I went back to the chem lab. I think I could still do the same job, but I probably wouldn't.
Yeah,
I'd probably kill myself first.
That sounds too monotonous for me. It's the same thing as when I was studying computer science. I was like, I could probably force myself to do this.
You were studying computer science?
Yeah, my first year in university. I studied
way.
Computer science.
How come I never knew about this?
I don't know. I think I mentioned it before. I studied computer science for a year, and then I was like, yeah, this 1 is too much math for me, and 2 is like just too monotonous. Like I can't stare at a computer screen just typing in like letters and numbers, and I mean it's not random, but it's.
Oh, I can, man. When I used to like do coding and shit, I would just get sucked in. It's so easy to just like lose track of time, like forget to go to the bathroom, forget to eat for hours.
That's like when I play video games, but I don't know. You're like a savant, so it's not the same thing.
Now am I a savant? I'm not retarded.
Hey, being a savant doesn't mean you're retarded.
Well, it usually means you're deficient in some other area. I'm definitely not a savant.
I don't mean a savant in the strictest sense of the word. I just mean like a...
That's how a lot of people are. If you like programming, man, we should ask Will about that. But most people, because there's something about a computer, if you get sucked in, you get sucked the fuck in.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I liked programming. I thought it was cool, but I just didn't want to. I don't know. I also didn't have like the math or any background. Like I was very basic because in high school we didn't have any sort like our computer classes were literally just keyboarding classes.
Yeah, my computer class was just like playing Unreal Tournament.
Yeah, my high school.
Watching Borat. I'm not exaggerating.
Yeah, I know. My high school was a joke, but our teacher was really strict. She would just make us like type like essays.
That's horrible.
It was awful. My high school was awful.
Ours was a little bit burned out on acid, so you just kind of like sat in the corner of the room and we just kind of like dominated. So most days we just play Unreal, and we had like 30 computers, so it got pretty hectic.
Our computers weren't that high quality either.
Unreal does not need a high quality
computer.
That's true.
What Unreal were you playing? 1 or 3?
I think 3, yeah.
3 was the big one, I think.
It wasn't very big. It was like maybe like 15 megs or something. We just download because the computers would delete every time, so you'd have to download the package like fresh.
Oh yeah.
You just install it really fast on the computer, and then like we'd all be there. It was like 50-minute class, and we'd play like 100 rounds.
Jeez.
I got so good, man. I was the top 3 out of 30 like most times.
Yeah. What I meant by big was it was like a big popular one. Yeah. It wasn't. It's obviously not a big patch. Like that game is super old. Speaking of, we need to start Twitch streaming again. We need to Twitch.
Oh well, I need to come here to Twitch stream.
We need to stream some more DOS games. No, we could Twitch stream together.
It's hard to play together. How are we going to play together on 2 different computers?
Well, we could screen share, and one of us could play, and one of us could make decisions. I guess. But
one of us could play, and one could make decisions.
Well, I mean, or help make decisions. I guess I should say.
Yeah, we can. All right, we can do a little this weekend.
We should, yeah, because we played. We only streamed like really one time.
I got Kim to play Jones the other day, man, and Kim loved Jones. He went home and he looked up like how to win at Jones.
Jeez. Jones is like your favorite game of all time.
Jones is sick, man.
It is sick. I won't disagree with you. I think I still like Oregon Trail more. Maybe after some time I'll come over to the Jones side. But Jones is when it comes to DOS games, Jones is up there. It's a good one.
All right, we can play Oregon Trail.
Oregon Trail is.
But we gotta fill it with more people we hate this time like we did last time.
That's true. We should play a political Oregon Trail. Just like put like DeSantis, Jeff Sessions, Donald Trump.
But I don't really hate politicians. I just think they're like shit.
I do. I hate them. I think they're horrible people that try to destroy our country. Not on purpose, but they are. So I think that they should go away. I don't really want anyone to die, but if I had to pick people to die, most of them would be Republican politicians.
Okay, give me your list. Let's say you're gonna bring people and you're gonna try and get them killed on Oregon Trail. Give me your list and I'll give you my list.
Trump is probably number 1. Who else would be up there? The thing is there's a lot of them on the Republican.
Jeff Flake, Marco Rubio.
Cruz would be higher.
Yeah,
Cruz is definitely up there.
Cruz
Cruz is way up there.
Eric Holder.
You know,
Chris Christie.
I would put
Giuliani.
I would put Eric Prince pretty high up there.
Blackwater.
Yeah, Blackwater guy. Betsy DeVos's brother, who's another Grubstakers guy.
DeVos is a good pick.
DeVos would be a good pick. So how many picks? We have 4 picks? 5 picks?
I think 4. I think it's you plus 4.
Okay, so Trump is definitely
Cruz,
on.
DeVos.
Trump and Cruz are definitely on. I would pick either DeVos or Prince.
Prince isn't a politician though.
Okay, yeah, if we're only picking politicians.
Only
I don't know if I would pick DeVos though.
Right,
because
Vicky?
she's just dumb.
That's a cobweb.
That is a cobweb that just fell from our ceiling. Oh, wow, makes
You can tell Abby's not dusting.
Abby really needs to clean more. For all the water that she uses in this house, she doesn't use anything to clean.
Ryan Zinke.
Man, see, this is really hard.
Governor Jerry Brown.
Jerry Brown's a really bad guy.
Why? Because of the Dead Kennedy song?
Are you talking about from Kansas?
No, Jerry Brown is the governor of California.
Oh, California. No. What is his name?
Brownback.
Oh yeah, Brownback. Yeah, I don't know. I need to.
You know what his nickname is?
What is that?
Bareback.
Oh jeez. Yikes.
Bareback Brownback.
Are we only talking U.S. politicians?
No, not necessarily. Who do you want
Alright,
to pick?
I'm putting Ben Salman on there. I'm putting the newly elected.
Okay, I think you've picked enough.
I'm picking the new. No, because I said, what did I say? I said Trump. I said Cruz. I would put Ben Salman, and I would pick what's his name from Brazil.
Really, Bolsonaro? Why?
He's a fucking fascist. He's gonna run that country into the ground, and he's gonna destroy the Amazon rainforest.
I don't. Okay, I need to research him before I say anything specific about him. But from what I understand very little about him. Basically, just that he's an ex-member of the military and that he says a lot of stupid shit. But he's no friend to Trump, number 1. He's very anti-China, number 2. And those are both things that kind of vibe with me.
He's like,
but yeah,
he's like he's very much like a Duterte type of person. He openly talks. He's talked about being he would do a military coup. He also talked about how he.
I don't think that was him. I think it was
his
murder
VP.
people. I think it was his VP.
No, he's also openly talked about. I've listened to like multiple like hour-long podcasts about him and his history.
Yeah.
I'm in the same boat as you. I have to do more research and like write some things down.
Let's write an article together about Bolsonaro.
Okay, but he's a bad guy, dude. Like real. He's not a good.
Like a Batman villain.
He's kind of maybe who would he be like? Maybe he's like a Bane type guy.
I haven't seen Batman, really. I don't know.
I've only seen parts of that one, but Bane is a pretty rough and tumble guy who strikes me as more like a Duterte or like maybe him. He's just like talking about the darkness.
Let's see how he runs shit.
Just like,
Oh, you were born in the darkness. I lived in it. I thrived in the
Pretty
darkness.
silly right now.
yeah, well that's all right. This is a silly podcast. Anyway, but like I think he's legit like not a good guy. I think he's going to be really bad for Brazil. And
Tell me about the environmental stuff you heard about.
He's very much like he's like a corporatist, and I would have to check about his climate change beliefs, but I don't think he doesn't believe or he doesn't care about climate change. So I believe he will just he's definitely very friendly with corporations. So I think when it comes to corporations, he's going to pander to them and let them just destroy the Amazon rainforest, which literally we have 10 years, is what the scientists are saying. And what?
Nothing, you'll see.
Oh, okay. Text messages. But we have 10 years, and I think that...
Well, 10 years for what?
To potentially stem the climate crisis that we have. And we're already not going to do that, but destroying the Amazon rainforest, which are called the lungs of the world, is going to make that degenerate even faster.
I agree with you. He's bad on environmental, but let me take a look here. Let's see. What he says about it.
What I would like to say is...
It says mostly Christian conservatism, which is, I don't agree with. But those kinds of policies basically can go back and forth. Environmentalism is more like non-reversible, irreversible. Yeah, he's pro-torture, which is obviously not great. Economic liberal, a little bit sexist, anti-refugee.
Sounds like Trump.
Pro-military dictatorship. The foreign policy.
Pro-military dictatorship.
Whoa, listen to this though.
That's
trip to 5 democratic countries. These are his the first places he wants to visit. His new best friends: the United States, Israel, Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan.
But
showed me who we will be and would like to join good people. I don't know what that means.
But you said he wasn't friends with Trump, right?
Basically, he said that he will do his best to be friends with Trump for the good of the Brazilian people, which tends to indicate to me he has no interest in being friends with Trump. He's only doing it.
I guess. I mean, the Taiwan thing makes me happy because they need allies, but I don't want them to make allies with people who are straight, like, up and down fascists.
Yeah, I agree with you. Fascism is bad. Okay, let's see. He's a powerful supporter of agribusiness. Chafed at foreign pressure to safeguard the rainforest, served notice to the World Wildlife Fund he will not tolerate their agendas in Brazil. He's come strongly against land reserved for indigenous tribes. He plans to expand nuclear and hydroelectric power into the Amazon.
That all sounds terrible.
Yeah, that sounds pretty terrible.
That's bad. That's really bad. And like I said, the climate scientists are saying we have 10 years. I think we're not going to do the United States is not going to do almost anything in 10 years, and we have some of the highest carbon emissions in the world.
I disagree because I think a lot of the car companies are making huge strides with very little pressure, basically. The amount of electric cars that are being pushed out right now is insane. And they're facing pressure from other countries who are doing shit, basically. Like, nobody... When you talk about Taiwan or something who's trying to basically stop the sale of gasoline-powered cars by 2040, these companies, like, if they don't invest in like EV technology right now, they have no future.
I agree, which is why there is some argument for like the quote-unquote like libertarian idea of like the market shifts the ideas, but that really only works on like a
I'm not saying that the market
scale.
should shift the ideas, but I'm saying that I'm not saying that hope is lost, basically.
Fair enough, but more and more I think we're going to be, in the next 50, 60 years, we'll be drowning. And there will be wars over water, and I don't see a good outcome for the world. Maybe, I really hope I'm wrong, but I don't see a whole lot of hope in what's going on right now, especially on the U.S. side. Now, again, you're right, like a lot of European nations and a lot of Asian nations are pushing in the right direction, so maybe that will stem it. But right now, and the thing is, also, a lot of people are pushing for things like...
I think most people in the U.S., at least, are not denying climate change anymore, even Republicans. Like, they're not denying it exists at this point. They're just admitting they don't care.
Well, most of them say it's cyclical. They're just saying it's a cyclical thing.
Well, I mean, I think that argument... I've heard that argument less and less. Now, I've just heard that... I mean, it's pretty clear right now. Like, they're just lying about it, and they just don't give a shit. Like...
I think you're not wrong, but that it doesn't make it any worse. And the Republicans control both the presidency, the judiciary, and the Senate right now.
Yeah, well, listen, the American population, the ones who vote for Republicans are mostly in coastal places. I mean, not obviously in the center of the country, but you look at the Deep South, you look at the Southeast. Those are the countries that are most affected by hurricanes. They're going to be the ones that suffer the most from their own chosen policies. So.
Yeah, but the problem is not only that, but to go back to what we were talking about earlier, is just like the voter disenfranchisement is making it like uneven. So it doesn't matter even if the American people want to choose a more progressive leader, they don't get that choice. So it's not fair, and it's not realistic representation.
I know what you're saying, but demographically, the Republicans have been. And Democrats have been saying this for a long time, but longer term, the Republicans are basically done. Like this wing of politics, this wing of conservative, like know nothingness. I'm talking about like 1920s.
And the Know Nothing Party. Yeah,
it's basically dead. The only people who support it are people who live in basically dying rural towns, and like their future is not bright, especially demographically.
Or rich people. Rich people support that.
Rich people less and less support the Republican Party.
I disagree.
Look at
the uber rich definitely support it, and they pour millions of dollars into
the
this
uber
thing.
rich. Yeah, but you look at like Virginia. The Virginia race is basically suburban Virginia, which has gone Republican for a long time. They're losing it because like all of these typical Republican ideas that they supported for a long time: free trade, fiscal conservatism, low taxes.
Yeah.
Donald Trump has done none of those, and the Republican Party.
He's done it for billionaires.
He did it for corporations. He didn't even do it for people. Like the little baby tax cuts. He dropped the corporate tax rate. What was it, like 22%? Where are the 22% tax rates for rich Americans? The highest like marginal tax rate for rich Americans even is still in the 30s. So why is it lower for corporations? Like he basically didn't give anyone what they wanted except for corporations. He's fucked the entire American economy with these fucking trade wars,
which I agree with in the case of enemy countries of the United States like China. That's fine, but when you're starting trade wars or threatening trade wars against South Korea or Japan, Canada, even Mexico. Mexico has been a pretty close cooperating ally for the last 20-something years. Like,
they've been a good ally with us for quite a while, especially considering the fact that we stole a bunch of their land. I mean, I agree with you, and to your point, like there is like a push in some ways. Like you look at like you said, Virginia. I would say West Virginia. Like
look at Arizona.
Yeah. Well, there are
this part of that Senate race is gonna. Whoever wins, it's gonna probably fall within a few, maybe 5,000 votes. Arizona's going back a lot more blue than it used to be because Trump is fucking shit.
It's not just Trump though. I think people are waking up in the age of technology and they're saying, okay, they're actually getting more informed. I don't think the average voter is super informed, but they're getting more informed and they're getting more information. It's not just 3 cable news networks anymore. They're watching people on YouTube. They're reading a bunch of different various
and by the way,
information.
I think CNN is doing really good stuff right now because I think the whole argument that we made before of neutrality versus like
objectivity,
objectivity, that CNN used to be like on things like climate change, basically, even things like climate change, they would basically present 2 sides of the climate change argument, and they've just dropped the whole act. Like, because there's a war, basically. The president of the United States has declared the media the enemy of the United States, basically, the enemy of the people, the enemy of him, and they're at war against him now. So they're not pulling any punches, and even Larry King is like, oh, you know. CNN stopped reporting news a long time, as if what Larry King ever did was news.
Yeah.
And not wasting people's time in his idiotic suspenders.
Yeah, I would agree with you to an extent. I think there are still. It depends on the issue, man. It depends on the issue. Yeah, on climate change and things like that have been decided 10, 20 years ago. They're finally coming around, which is good. I welcome any sort of good journalism, and I feel like because they're under fire, they're pushing back. But what I worry about is in 2020, when most likely a Democratic candidate gets elected, maybe they're going to be a corporatist, maybe it's going to be someone progressive, hopefully. What do they do then? Do they go back to neutrality bias, or do they keep
what I'm saying, they're not
are?
neutral. They're not neutral, and they haven't been for a while. The neutrality is not, and I think they're like a lot of networks. They have
I disagree that it hasn't been for a while. It's been
at least for a couple years.
I would say up until the last year and a half. Even in the beginning of the Trump presidency, they were very neutral. They will always play the neutrality bias. I don't
know. We need to go back and look at old archival footage of Anderson Cooper, but I don't remember that being the case. I think they've always been objective, and I think they'll continue to be objective. But I don't think they're going to be neutral about some of these. They're not the mouthpiece of the Democratic Party, but they won't let garbage fly in their face. That's what it seems like. Like this Jim Acosta thing. Like these people, I remember them being combative with Obama too.
Yeah, of course they're being. Of course, on what issues though is the question.
I can't remember. I mean, this was so long ago. Obama has been president for over 2 years. I honestly can't remember.
I don't know. I just remember when Trump did the first big strike that he did.
Strike.
Just what was that? When he launched all those bombs.
Yeah.
Basically, you had people on mainstream media saying this is when Trump became presidential. Oh, our weapons.
Yeah, because they thought it was a good move.
Our weapons are so beautiful.
They thought it was a good move.
Those are illegal wars. Those bombs are not beautiful. They're killing civilians. That's disgusting.
That's your opinion, but they were not. That was not neutral at all. That was, if anything, that was non-neutral. That was opinion.
But that was.
Those just opinions that you don't agree with. But that wasn't objective even.
But objectivity would say.
Objectivity would say they report the news, not saying he becomes presidential.
But
that's not objective. That's not even neutral. That's opinion.
So it's an opinion.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. That's an opinion, but yeah, it's not. I don't know.
It depends who said that. That's like one or two hosts, but they don't report.
But they're quote unquote liberal hosts. Okay, my thing is fuck this liberal media bullshit. Don't tell me that CNN or MSNBC is liberal. All you have MSNBC
I'm not
all
telling
day.
You that.
I know. But this is what gets me upset. I'm not. This is not on you. You have people.
Okay, fine. Let me challenge you on that. You're saying that the hosts are not liberal because they supported that.
Not only that, but a lot of things. But yes, okay.
Okay, let me challenge you on that specifically because I consider myself a liberal, but I think that the strike, while it was moronic, I think that it was at least in the right direction because I think that there should be a red line drawn around chemical weapons, especially after Russia fucked the world over by not disposing of Assad's chemical weapons. What do you think?
Okay, but I would say that you need to do some sort of investigation before that, and you need to.
There was an investigation.
But many days afterwards. And
because the Syrians wouldn't let them in to investigate. It was pretty clear what took place.
But okay, so yeah, what do you do about that?
Okay, let's say the Syrians let them in. They investigated. The Syrians, of course, deny it, and the UN, which they did, publicly says basically, yeah, there were chemical weapons used here. We found traces. Period. What would you say then? What should the United States do? Wait for a coalition and start a ground invasion? What do you suggest? I'm honestly asking.
Yeah, it's a tough question, but I definitely would. Okay, so first, I wouldn't call the weapons beautiful. Weapons are not beautiful.
No,
They're
weapons
disgusting.
are not beautiful.
So that's really what got under my skin.
Who said that?
Brian, what's his name?
Brian Adams.
Baby, you're all that I need when you're lying here in my arms. No, what's his name? Brian Williams.
Oh.
He said it on CNN. So that's my thing is...
Brian Williams is NBC, Jordan.
Okay, NBC, sorry. Okay, so you put... Because they all switch around, and Fox News people go to CNN or go to MSNBC. Because it's just a big circle jerk of corporatists.
You're making it sound like...
They don't care. They don't actually care about the average person. But anyway, what would I have done? I'm not exactly sure. That's a very tough thing to say.
Yeah.
But I definitely... My main qualm is that they said the weapons were beautiful. This is when Trump becomes presidential. None of those things are true. Those are not That's not a presidential move to just. This was before the investigation was finalized. He dropped a bunch of bombs. So that's not presidential at all. That's reactionary. A 12-year-old could go, oh, someone told me that they did some chemical weapons. Oh, I don't like those people. I'm just going to drop a bunch of bombs. That's a reactionary stance.
Okay, well, the whole point is basically Obama in 2012 set the it wasn't 2012. It was 2013. Said the red line statement. In 2014, there were the weapons used in Syria, and basically Obama backtracked, dealt with Russia to try and remove the chemical weapons, and basically it left kind of a stain in a lot of Americans' psyche, basically saying that the United States made a clear threat that they were going to get involved in this crisis if chemical weapons were used. They were used, and they didn't get involved. They kind of copped out and did the kind of...
So I would say you don't make a stupid threat like that. So you would never catch me defending Obama.
Okay, and he did... Listen, the irony, this was not a Trumpian thing, basically. Mm-hmm. Trump went after and he criticized the move, basically.
Yeah.
He criticized during the debates the red line, but he also criticized the bombing of Syria without the consent of Congress. And then he went and did the same fucking thing.
Yeah.
But that's not the point.
But that is another thing that you can go against him with.
What should the United States do? Should they get a congressional authorization?
If you're gonna bomb, if you're gonna bomb another country.
But the problem with that is, as soon as you start doing that, the Syrians just... they know what's happening. They start posturing for war. And then what happens? Maybe they ask Russia to get involved. And then Russia sets up a no-fly zone over Syria. It doesn't all piece together properly.
But
the Iranian army gets involved or something like that. And then you're dealing...
Then you don't invade.
So you just don't invade? You just say, oh, you've got Russian protection, so we're just gonna kind of...
I would say do we have some sort of agreement that we're going to go to war there?
No.
But
the thing is that maybe bad behavior should be punished, and it's not the same thing as saying we need to get an authorization for force, go in, and maybe even possibly fight with Russia to take down the Syrian.
If Russia is going to go to war with us, I don't support two nuclear powers going to war unless it's literally the end of the world, because that's what that will be.
So what should America do? Because there's basically no other option.
America has the most powerful economy in the world. They should sanction them, and they should.
Whoa, that's nonsensical. Because
I know that they don't have a lot of interaction with the American economy.
They don't have any interaction with any economy. That country has been dazzled by civil war.
Then they're a fucking shithole anyway. And I think the problem that America has is, we always want to answer our fucking questions with, oh, we're going to bomb you. We're going to drop bombs.
But that's the thing. We already said that we were going to. Not only that,
but you shouldn't have said that. I think the framing is wrong. Because
you might not like it, but the United States basically has been the main contributing party to every single international agreement since the 1950s. And if nobody is going to enforce them, it leaves it up to us. We created the United Nations. We created the League of Nations. We created the Security Council. We created the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty.
So let's get together with those nations and figure out something to do. But I don't think the option...
That's nonsense.
Then what do you... So you think indiscriminate bombing is
no. I don't. I'm not saying that. I agree with you. There's no good answer, but I think that diplomacy... there's no good diplomacy here. You either bomb or you say we're just not going to get involved. But there's no middle ground here.
But you can also sanction their allies. You can sanction Russia. You can sanction all these other people.
How many sanctions we already have against Russia?
I know, but also you can do things like go to the table with these people, and you can tell them, okay, look, this is not acceptable, and if you want to be...
Do you know how long the United States tried to sit at the table with Syria to solve the civil war thing? And you know how many times Syria basically... No, not Syria. The Russians basically said, stay the fuck out of this. This is our business.
So, yeah.
So the United States has no fucking power. And then basically, the Syrians, after spitting in the face of everyone in the world, with the Russians having their back and the Iranians having their back, they go and dump chemical weapons on their own people and just shame the United States. What should the United States do? Should they do nothing?
I think you just say, I don't know. But I don't think the best option is to just bomb indiscriminately.
That may be true. But what is an alternative?
I think that's definitely true.
Let's say there's more than one plan. What is the alternative plan? Diplomacy hasn't worked. Sitting at the table, It hasn't worked. I mean, there's.
Then I think you let them devolve into an absolute shithole, and you keep trying to do diplomacy. You keep trying to go to the table, and you support democratic elements within that country.
It's one thing to allow genocide and to allow if you really don't believe in that kind of use of force. It's one thing to allow a dictator to use chemical weapons against his own people. It's another thing when you are basically the creator and main party to the chemical weapons agreements.
My thing is, we support 73% of the world's dictatorships. We support Saudi Arabia.
We
don't have the moral authority to say, this is a genocide, this is a genocide. So we're gonna intervene here. We're gonna drop some bombs and indiscriminately kill a school bus full of children.
If we don't, then who does, man?
Then no one does. And that's
so
the thing.
There's just no moral center in the world. We should just let everything just collapse.
America is not the moral center of the world.
America is. Who is?
Who is? It's a lot of nations coming together, and I think there's a Venn diagram. There's an intersection of moral centrality and the push and pull of all the forces too. America is not the fucking world police, man. We don't get to just go around saying like
It's not that we get to. It's our responsibility. So we have to. It's not something we want to do. But we've created these organizations.
So we should just go and just bomb them? Do you think bombing that makes the situation any better?
No, I honestly don't. But I don't know what the alternative is. I honestly think that it was a stupid idea.
Yeah, I agree.
But I don't know what else. I don't know what I don't know what a better option is.
You keep pushing that, and you push all of their
I'm asking you. I'm saying you disagree with it even more than I do. But give me one other option.
I think it's a multifaceted approach. I think it's multi-pronged. You go to their allies. You go to Russia. Obviously, Russia doesn't really agree with the United States. I know.
Russia is Russia is the one who caused this by not destroying their weapons in the first place.
I agree with you.
Russia, if anything, is equally at fault, if not more at fault.
Not going to disagree with you. But you go to people like... See, the thing is, you go to people like Iran, and instead of tearing up the deal like our fucking idiot president did...
Yeah.
And you work with them. You say, okay,
we should probably tone it down so the neighbors don't get upset.
Okay, so you say to Iran, you say, all right, hey, we brokered this deal. We gave you your money back that we stole from you. You're gonna start like cutting down your nuclear program. You've been following the deal because they followed the deal. They never broke the deal.
Yeah, it's true. Well, they were testing. I mean, the whole thing with Donald Trump is they were testing missile technology.
I don't care. The thing is people want to say things like that. They want to say, "Oh, we're worried about North Korea."
Okay. Anyway, what was your point?
But you want to say things like this. We have the technology. We are the biggest military by 10, 20 fold, especially over countries like this. So you go to those countries and you say, "Okay, we don't want to take you out, and we will make agreements that show us that like we're not going to take you out. We're not going to topple your regime."
Well, that's the problem with Donald Trump is he openly talks about taking them out.
So that's my problem is with someone like Donald Trump in power, there's no answer. And to be fair, I don't know that Hillary Clinton would have been much better. We potentially could be in more wars with Hillary Clinton as president.
I don't know. I disagree. I think Donald Trump doesn't understand foreign policy at all. I think
he doesn't. But that's the thing is he waves back and forth and he doesn't really accomplish.
Hillary Clinton was the Secretary of fucking State. Like her job for several years was diplomacy, just meeting with foreign leaders and trying to negotiate. Basically,
she's been in favor of every war we've gone into. I think she loves.
She's only been in. What other war was she in favor of? Besides the Iraq war that she voted for and then admitted she regretted.
All of the wars, very late. She's always late to the party, but all of the wars that we've been in, has she opposed any of them?
Which wars?
We're in fucking 8 illegal wars right now.
Okay, we're not in wars. We carry out military strikes.
We've had this argument before. I don't know if it was on the pod or not, but so if you bomb another country and they didn't attack you, that's an illegal war.
That's not a war. That's a strike. A war means there's
you've committed. Okay, so this is okay. We've committed acts of war. We've committed acts of war.
That's fair. You can say that.
So if they were to say, okay, so yeah, it's not a legal, quote unquote, like in the sorts of legality, it's not a war.
I think
we've committed acts of war against other countries. So what?
So what's your point?
I'm saying she's in favor of all that. She hasn't come out against. She doesn't say, "Oh, we shouldn't drop bombs in Syria. We shouldn't kill innocent children. Oh, we shouldn't be in Yemen right now dropping bombs." Like, she hasn't come against any of that. So she's in favor of all those things. She's tacitly in favor of all those things.
I don't think you could find, including Bernie Sanders, I don't think you could find a member of
there's
the higher body, the Senate, the U.S. Senate, that would actually come out against any of those strikes.
I would have to look, but it's more than Bernie Sanders that aren't against it. I think
even Bernie Sanders is probably not against it. Bernie Sanders probably would vote in authorization.
I would disagree with you but again, there wasn't a vote for authorization. If you're gonna you need to authorize those sorts of like strikes. Congress needs to authorize war. So that's the whole thing. Is Congress has to authorize like acts of war, and if you're not gonna authorize that, then it's illegal. That would be my argument.
Well, I guess, okay, the constitutional argument is that the United States, the President of the United States has the power to authorize limited military action that falls short of war without congressional authorization.
But what?
That's
so then
that's been the precedent.
Then I would argue that we're arguing semantics, because what does that mean?
I would argue that a war, as opposed to a strike, is a sustained bilateral exchange of mortal force.
So we're at least in 2 illegal wars, Iraq and Afghanistan. Been there for 15 years.
There was an authorization of force for both, no?
For both of them?
Yeah. There was the Hillary Clinton voted for it.
I know there was one. I remember
definitely one for Afghanistan.
Yeah, there was one for Afghanistan.
There was one for Iraq. Hillary Clinton voted in favor of a war in Iraq.
But she's also opposed to it now. So okay,
she voted for the original authorization.
Fair enough, but we've had a presence. We also have a presence in Syria. We also have a presence.
We don't actually have a ground presence. We just do bombing.
We don't have any people in Syria right now.
As far as I know, no.
I would assume that
anyone does.
I would assume in the 8 countries that we're bombing, we have a presence somewhere.
Yemen, we don't. Nobody has a presence in Yemen.
Which other countries are we bombing? We're about hold on. Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria.
Yeah, Iraq and Afghanistan, we have authorizations in place.
Yeah, so that's fine. It's not fine for me, but I think that's...
You already said it. So yeah. No takebacks.
We're there. We're there. Okay, so aside from that, we are in... When it comes to the countries that we're bombing illegally, or at least have invaded illegally, there are like, what, eight of them. You have Iraq, Afghanistan. You can argue that we have, like an authorization for war for those countries. But we've been there far too long. In my opinion, we're wasting money. Nothing has changed. There's no reason to just stay there indefinitely.
You sound just like Donald Trump.
No, because he flipped. That's what he said during the campaign trail, and I agree with him.
That's what if you read the Bob Woodward book, that's what he wants to do. He's just
I disagree. I don't think he has any actual, views.
Yeah, he doesn't. Anyway, read the book.
Yeah, I need to finish it. I've read a decent amount of it. But anyway, so where we Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Yemen, it's 4.
Yeah.
Niger, 5.
Niger.
We have presence in Niger.
I think we're acting in assistance to their government, right?
We're still at war in a country that we don't have any reason to be in.
Well, the government asked us to. Their government asked us to. But yeah, maybe, there's an argument to be made that who cares? But
I wouldn't say who cares, but what are we doing and how careful are we being? Because I don't think the U.S. is very careful. So we also have, Iraq, Syria, Afghanistan, Niger, Yemen, Pakistan, Somalia, Libya.
Pakistan's probably the one place where I'd say it's probably okay.
To what?
Because we do have a war authorization in Afghanistan, and Pakistan basically has an essentially open border with Afghanistan, and they're not in control of the territory in a good portion of their own country. They just kind of don't care what takes place there. So I think, listen, I hate collateral damage, and I think that bombing a village and having it affect people is people who are not involved in military stuff is bad, but I don't know. I mean, that's what war is. There's already a war authorization.
But that's what you're...
I'm not arguing for war. I'm saying that in terms of war,
there's not a war.
This is a justified one.
But there's not a war in Pakistan.
No, but there's essentially an open border with Afghanistan, and there is an authorization for Afghanistan.
So there's also you could say there's authorization with Iraq.
There's very limited. If there is activity in Pakistan, like widespread, it's probably limited to an extremely small area because the Pakistani government would not allow us to like carry out widespread bombing of their sovereign territory. They were so pissed about that Osama raid. I mean, they're crooked and they're fucked up, but they're like viciously protective of.
I mean, to that same point, if you say that we can act in a limited position in that country, you could also say, well, we're involved in Iraq. We have an authorization for Iraq. Russia is a close ally of Iraq. Couldn't we authorize?
It's not the same thing because Iraq doesn't basically have an open, porous border with like militants running across to go to. I mean, that's essentially what the American army was complaining about for a long time during the Afghani war, is that basically they would chase these guys and they just run over the border to Pakistan, and basically Pakistan used to be a dead zone where they couldn't go, and it still is to a large extent. So they just crossed the border into Pakistan, and the United States Army just couldn't cross, and they just basically wait for them to come back. So it's just kind of like a safe zone for them. That's not the case with most other countries in the world.
But that's my thing is, what do we do with that? Do we just say, well, if they're a weak country, then we bomb them, and if they're a stronger country that they run into or seek refuge in, then we ignore it? I'm
not exactly sure what the context of these strikes are.
Well, that's the thing we're not battling countries. We're not at like war with countries. We're at war with ideologies. We're at war with terrorists. It's the same thing as if some right-wing terrorist or even left-wing terrorist, but it's pretty unlikely. But a right-wing terrorist in the U.S. goes to Mexico and says, "Oh, these fucking brown people, this caravan,"
it's not the
and
same
they blow
thing,
up a city, and then Mexico says, "Oh, that's an act of war or aggression."
It's not exactly the same. Afghanistan is an insurgency. It's as if the entire, like a fifth of the country has basically taken up arms against the central government and shut it down and been bombing U.S. troops for 15 years.
It's a little bit different, but it's
what you're talking about, an isolated case with like a few people, like a handful of bombers versus a fifth of the country in open insurrection.
It's definitely not a fifth of the country in the U.S. I would agree.
No.
I would agree with you. I would agree with you on that. But I would say that we have a lot of like militias. We have a lot of 3 1%ers, things like that.
They've also never actually carried out strikes against the United States federal government, unlike the Taliban.
We've had one terrorist strike from overseas in like 80 years.
At this point, we're not defending Afghanistan. I disagree with the ideology that terrorism that starts in Afghanistan is going to affect the U.S. At this point, we're trying to prevent Afghanistan from becoming a failed state, which it essentially is right now, from becoming a worse failed state.
But, I mean, I don't know. I think we're in there for ulterior motives. I think we're in there for things like poppy and stuff like that.
Poppy? What do you mean? You think the United States is profiting off of the opium trade?
Absolutely.
You know how hard they've tried to get rid of the opium trade there?
I don't think that we've tried that hard. I mean, I think in some ways we do, but, like, look how much that we profit off of opium sales in our own country.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Who profits off of it?
In terms of opioids, we profit tons.
Those opioids are mostly synthetically manufactured.
It's fair, but
they're not using Afghani opium poppies
to make those opioids. I can assure you of that.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't know.
If anything, it competes with the pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I don't know. I just don't think there's any real. What's the real reason for being there? For going to war? What would your argument be?
The original war or the war now? Because the original war was very specific. Basically, that the Taliban government there was holding Osama bin Laden, and basically the United States demanded him, and the Taliban government said, no, you can try him in an Islamic court. And the United States is like, go fuck yourself. We're gonna bomb the shit out of you and take him anyways.
But I don't think that's the way to handle it.
That's what George W. Bush did in 2001.
Yeah, and obviously he's a fucking idiot.
The reason now for continuing the war, as I understand,
so that's what I would say is, Okay, so you want to kill him? We killed him years and years and years and years.
Listen, invading a country to kill a single person, I think was
stupid. Yeah, it's fucking idiotic. But anyway, go
Although
ahead.
the argument at the time too was saying that the Taliban was basically they had created a safe haven for terrorist groups, basically that you could have these groups act with impunity. It's kind of like the United States and their issue with like the Pirate Bay or the Silk Road, that there's these kinds of places.
To obviously a much lesser degree. Well, Silk Road is an interesting one, but Pirate Bay is
Basically, just that these places that can act criminally with complete impunity, and that they shouldn't be allowed to continue to exist.
Mm-hmm. Do you think either of those should be illegal?
Which one?
Either of them. I'm asking either of them.
I think they are illegal, and I think that's the beauty of the internet, is that it kind of finds a way to get around it in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I think that they are illegal. It's not my place to question the morality. Of whatever.
That's just an opinion. I mean, none of.
I think that these websites, honestly, from a moral standpoint, should probably continue to exist. I think that the status quo that we have is actually not terrible. That if you're smart enough, if you have enough perseverance, that basically you can continue to exist on the dark web. Get around the existing laws.
In terms of the dark web,
I include torrenting in a kind of. It's not really the dark web, but it's essentially kind of like dark activity.
I feel like that may be like where we're coming to a disagreement, is because like in terms of dark web, I would agree and disagree, because I think like the Pirate Bay is okay because it's not. Most of it is not stealing from low-level people. Most of the things that you could find on the Pirate Bay are going to be high-level. There will be people that are already millionaires, and they're making tons of money already, and they don't... I mean, it is stealing. Of course it is stealing. So, like, I'm not going to say I'm going to come out in favor of stealing in any case. But the Silk Road, I support. I would say that I wouldn't think it's, like, an inherently, like, evil place to a degree, but there are things, and maybe this was planted by like FBI, because like I have a friend who bought things off the dark net. I don't know if it was specifically off Silk Road, but he bought like drugs and stuff, and he also bought guns and things like that.
Plastic
and
guns,
real guns, and he eventually got arrested. So it could have been that those were the guns and things like that were put on there by like the FBI or
that is possible.
Things like that. And I'm not in favor of that. I'm not in favor of firearms. But in terms of equalizing the distribution and the price of things, I'm okay with most of that.
But you're talking about the principle of the matter, whether there should be like a place in the world where you can kind of get away with doing these criminal things
but the criminal things is where I draw a line on that is, does it actually like really substantially hurt people? If you talk about Pirate Bay, you're talking about the difference between someone having $100 million and $150 million from record sales. And when you're talking about war in another country, you're talking about millions of people living or losing their lives. So I think it's a much more serious issue.
The Afghans every single person who joined the Taliban made their decision.
Agreed, but not everyone that's getting killed is in the Taliban. That's a distinction I draw. Is we just saw the bombs that we gave to Saudi. Again, we didn't do this, but we were complicit. We gave bombs to Saudi. They bombed a school bus full of children.
What you're arguing, it sounds like, is that because of the risk of collateral damage, that no war should ever take place. And I don't know if I agree with that theoretically.
I agree with you. Not inherently. I mean, World War II, there's collateral damage.
Every war there's collateral damage.
Yeah, every war there's collateral damage. But my line would be a much higher line than that. Like, if there's a straight genocide going on, okay, let's have a conversation. But if you're going to argue some small country that we could potentially have some more of effect on and help them out monetarily and say, okay, we'll support your country if you just change some of your ways. But I don't think we try. I think that's the main problem.
Give me an example.
Is that we no longer give a shit. Every one of those Middle Eastern countries, We don't give a shit.
Oh, give me one. That's like 50. But
any of them.
Give me one. Just give me one.
All the ones that all the ones. Okay,
I can tell you why diplomacy is. Okay, first of all, Afghanistan is not considered a Middle Eastern country even because that's like a weird. That's
okay,
like
but
Central Asia.
an average American person would consider it. Okay. But anyway, continue.
So you're saying why wouldn't diplomacy work there?
No, I'm saying why don't we try, and why is the alternative to trying to have some sort of diplomacy just to go to war? But in the
initial lead-up, you may think that that's wrong. Okay, let's say after the Taliban fell, which was very fast, basically, they just ran to the hills.
Yeah,
we tried to put a new constitution, a coalition government, and within a couple months, the bombing started. Basically. You just had the country had no social structure. It wasn't capable of operating in a modern state system. It was a collection of warlords and tribal peasants, basically vibing for factional power. That does not make a country.
But how is that different from what's going on now? See,
there's no difference. It hasn't changed.
Exactly. And what have we done? We've killed millions of civilians. Maybe not in that country alone. Okay, so we've killed thousands of civilians to be safe. I don't want to be.
Let's just say we've killed civilians. Okay.
Yeah. So
I agree with you that the war is stupid. But okay. Well, maybe not stupid. I don't know. I don't know. In 2001, if I had not been like so young, maybe I would have had like a more developed opinion. Looking back at the facts now, it's a lot easier to say. But at the time, I'm not sure what I would have said if I had the same mind I have now.
Yeah, of course. I mean, yeah, it's always different looking back. But that's my thing is, with all of these wars, I just feel like we could have done more to push for equality. And again,
I agree with you in principle, but in a lot of cases, these countries they don't operate like we do. You can't sit down and have diplomacy with a country that's basically run by tribal warlords because they don't have a foreign policy to speak of.
I would agree, but then at the same time, they're not. It's not like they're like. You can say 9/11. Everyone can say 9/11, 9/11, 9/11.
I didn't say 9/11.
No, I know you didn't. This is not necessarily all of the points I'm going to make is not straight an argument against you, but what I'm saying is, a lot of people will say 9/11 terrorist attacks, but we've only had one.
Yeah, granted, it's true.
So that's my thing is.
Yeah, but
if they're not,
kind of like a principle issue. Like
I agree with you. I think I'm more of an isolationist than you are. We've talked about this before with like trade policy and things. I think we need to stretch ourselves out more on trade policy. But when it comes to being the world police, I think we need to draw ourselves in a little bit more. And
we're not super active, honestly.
We're bombing like 9 countries.
Well, yeah, but you basically you gave me the examples of. There's not a single country in there who are not basically acting at the behest of other countries.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that we need to start proxy wars in those countries.
The proxy wars were started by other countries involved. Syria was basically ripped apart by Saudi Arabia, Iran, and Russia. So we didn't get in there until much later.
Agreed.
Yemen was the same thing. Saudi Arabia and Iran. Nigeria is fighting its own insurgency, which we're helping them against.
It's not Nigeria. It's Niger.
Oh, Niger.
Yeah.
Oh, Niger. Yeah, it's probably Boko Haram then, if I had to guess.
Yeah. I would agree with you.
And so the French army. We're probably at the behest of the French army. These aren't conflicts that we're just like, yeah, we're gonna get involved and we're gonna fuck these countries up. These are countries that have already devolved into proxy wars that we're just basically putting our ticket in.
I agree with you. And I'm not saying that the U.S. because it's very nuanced. These things are super nuanced and you have to very much parse them out. But what I would say is that we're not doing enough in terms of negotiating with these countries. And I understand, to your point earlier, is that you said some of these countries won't negotiate. And then it gets into deeper territory. But if you offer these countries a way out, and I think if you talk to them more, I think that's where our differences lies. I think we need to try to parlay them and say, okay, can we have a discussion as opposed to let's just bomb indiscriminately? Because in a lot of cases that's what we do, and we've bombed weddings and the way also
almost every single one of those cases that you're talking about. Those did not initially involve us. Those were situations where other countries started the bombing. Other countries started the war.
Agreed.
So what are we supposed to do?
But the way that we do our bombing... No. Okay, so aside from how we enter these countries or how we decide that we should be involved in these countries, I think that it's important how the U.S. handles itself in these countries. And the Snowden leaks, like it shows U.S. citizens killing innocent civilians and doing double tap strikes and then laughing about it. That's not Snowden. That was Chelsea Manning. Manning's.
That's the behavior of individual U.S. soldiers versus you're talking.
So, but we didn't reprimand them. That's the thing. We don't reprimand them.
Yo,
that's the de facto how it works out. So if we don't do those sorts of things and we don't say this is how we need to conduct ourselves, then we're tacitly agreeing to that.
I think you're splitting the issues here. One of them is about how the U.S. should respond to foreign policy, and the other one is about U.S. behavior for engagement.
Yeah, that's fair, but I think they're both important. I think
they are both important, but
but
they're not the same thing.
Yeah, but I think both of them are valid. Where would you disagree with me in both of those things? Involvement, I think we should involve ourselves less, and I think that our involvement in that should not include indiscriminate bombing and just drone strikes.
I honestly, and I'm not basing this off of much except I only have limited knowledge, but from what I understand, I don't think we do indiscriminate bombing, quote unquote. I think that the bombing is always targeted, and then from what I understand, there's always an evaluation of the potential cost of collateral damage.
I don't think we do enough. I don't think we do enough.
With
the amount of money that we pour into our military, the amount of innocent civilians that we kill is absurd.
That's what happens when you bomb. I mean, that's honestly happens with ground troops too.
And we've killed American citizens in those bombs, and we've done things like that. So
it happens with ground troops too, honestly. Like it's not only a bombing.
I think yeah, I agree with you. You're not wrong on that. But I think the way that you do that can at least mitigate that. And so I think we need to really, if we're gonna do any sorts of things that can kill people, we need to be much more careful about how we do that.
Yeah.
I think
I agree.
I value human life way too much to agree with any sort of on the ground thing that we're doing right now. I just think we're far too indiscriminate. We kill way too many innocent civilians.
The thing is, though, whose human life? Because I agree with you. If you're talking about these vague terror threats, that's one thing. But okay, let's say you're talking about Niger and we're bombing Boko Haram or whatever in a village. Boko Haram, I mean,
there are cases they've gone in and killed or kidnapped like 250 people.
For sure, yeah.
Or Syria when they have these chemical weapons attacks, killing thousands of people. So who's to say? I mean, who's to say who should live and who should die? It's not like a clear-cut case. Yeah, of course, death is bad. Death is horrible. And innocent people are going to die. Who should die first?
I would say not innocent civilians. I think that's my thing is, okay, so we have...
Would you be willing to risk the death of innocent civilians to save the potential to mitigate potential risk to other innocent civilians? That's basically what the question is.
That's what it gets down into a very.
That's why.
What are the numbers?
Are so difficult.
I definitely haven't seen the numbers, so it depends on how that.
Half of this is speculation, man. Like Boko Haram, who knows what Boko Haram is going to do?
Yeah, for sure. Who knows what Boko Haram is going to do? These things have less and less control over the country, and so yeah, you can argue who has control. Where are they going to strike? But it's the same thing in America. I mean, there are people. Oh, stop it! You're making me laugh, and this is a very serious topic.
We got to wrap it up. Though.
There are people doing like a lot of strikes and things like that are okay. So what I would say is that we need to be much more measured in our strikes. We need to be much more measured in what we're doing.
Yeah, no question.
Okay. So in addition to that, I would say we need to. Jesus.
It's very eloquent.
Fuck you. Eat shit, asshole.
Eat shit out of an asshole?
or just eat shit, and then I called you an asshole. So we need to be more careful about how we make these strikes, and I think we need to push diplomacy more, and I think we could do a lot because we have so much money. Our economy is huge. I think we need to push that more, and it's not always going to end up the way we want it, And so if we have to go into war, I think that's acceptable. But again, I think we need to get congressional authorization for these sorts of things that we're going into. In addition to that, I think we need to also. You're never going to end terrorism totally. There's going to be there's terrorism in the U.S. daily almost.
Yeah.
So if someone says, "Oh, there's terrorism in the U.S. daily," internally, because we haven't been attacked by a foreign nation in years and years and years. Like, what, 2001 was the last foreign terror attack we had? So should other nations be able to invade us because of the amount of, like, evil that's going on in the U.S.?
I mean, is that an honest question?
Yeah. I mean, why are we invading other countries if the only attacks are internal? So, yeah, there was terrorists, most of them from Saudi Arabia, that went to Afghanistan, created a terrorist cell, and then attacked us.
Yeah, and
that was in 2001, and that was the last time. There's been nothing since then.
Yeah, but we're not involved in almost any conflicts that have to do with domestic terror.
But I just
U.S.
terror. The U.S. is cutting funding under Donald Trump. Again, Donald Trump is a piece of shit. Fuck him. Everyone hates him. That is a rational person. But regardless of that,
cutting funding for what? You didn't say it. Cutting funding.
What do you mean?
You said Donald Trump is cutting funding.
Cutting funding for looking for terrorism inside the U.S. That's not like basically Muslim. He cut the funding for like especially for white terror groups, like the KKK, neo-Nazis, things like that. So if we're not even investigating ourselves and it's increasing as it has been, like look, pipe bombs, murder at the synagogue, things like that. Like it's been happening a lot, and it's been happening even under Obama, but especially under Trump. Should another nation be able to step in because there's terrorism happening on our borders?
We've never attacked a country because terrorism has happened within their borders.
Why are we attacking 8 nations? Why are we at war with 8 nations?
We just went over that.
But what?
Not a single one of them. We attacked them because terror was happening in their nations.
But we didn't. It's okay. So what I'm saying is they're not attacking us. Okay. I guess this was an internal monologue in my head. Should we attack nations that don't attack us just because of things that happen within their borders?
That's a good question, but that's been a debate for 70 years, ever since basically China shut off their borders and said, fuck everyone else, we have our internal sovereignty, and you can't get involved in our affairs. And that's still their justification, like, for why nobody can say anything about their human rights. They say, we have our sovereignty, stop getting involved.
I agree, but I think, especially in terms of China...
Depends what they're doing. I think it depends what they're doing. For China violating human rights here and there, yeah, it's probably not justification to, like, do too much. I think we should put a shitload of pressure on them and use diplomacy. For
Agreed.
A country that we have the means to deal with that is basically committing genocide, then I think in the case of genocide, yeah, why don't we step in? I don't see why we should let genocide take place.
I like that, but you can argue that a genocide is happening in China right now, with the Uyghur population.
You could, but we don't have the means to combat that. We would get...
But we don't... Okay, so here's what it would get down to for me.
If you have...
We also don't have the means to combat it in the Middle East. We've been in Iraq, we've been in Afghanistan. Whether you want to say
we can take out the bad regime. There's just the problem is they're putting a new one in.
Yeah, we have, but that's the thing is, yeah, okay. So you take out that bad regime and but you don't install a new one that's democratic, that's equal.
We have put new democratic ones in, but the problem is
it hasn't worked. That's the point. It hasn't gotten any better.
No, you're right.
So. Is it worth it? Was it worth it to destabilize Iraq, which was like one of the most it wasn't democratic, but it was one of the most stable regimes in the Middle East.
It's super easy to speculate, and it's impossible to know because honestly, Iraq could have had its own civil war, just like Syria. We're honestly just talking out of our asses right now. There's no way to know. The Arab Spring, the first country in the Arab Spring, could have been Iraq, and they could have been in the same fucking situation with or without us.
Agreed. So this is where my argument lies. We should. I mean, I get it if someone, especially one of our allies, asks us to come help in their own country.
Yeah.
But if they don't, maybe we should just leave it alone.
Depends on the situation. I think it's a case by case thing.
But what differentiates that case? That's what
the ability to do something. And the likelihood of success and the gravity of the crime.
But that's all speculation.
Yeah, it is.
So what?
That's all.
So what is the tipping point for you?
Genocide, active genocide would be.
But that's exactly what we just said though. Is China is actively genocide.
They're not actually committing genocide in any sense. They have concentration camps, but that's
so what would you define genocide as?
Mass murder of an ethnic group.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, I guess, but we're not in.
But we're
not defending the Rohingya right now. That's de facto a genocide, right?
Yeah, it was. But I think first of all, there's another country that we probably could go in and remove their regime, but that was a difficult case because it's not clear how closely involved the central government was in the actions of the individual military troops. Myanmar is a weird state with an extremely independent, strong army that's acted independently of civil government basically since the existence of the modern state, all the way up until 2016, whatever, when what's her name, Aung San Suu Kyi's party came in. That was the first time they ever had any authority other than their own sitting over them. So it's hard to say who was in charge of that.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't know, man.
I agree with most of your points. I just have to be the devil's advocate and just spit on your ideas.
That's fair. I mean, that's the thing is the issue, and maybe the crown jewel of this podcast is that we're just both contrarians, and so it ends up just us being like, no, I think this. No, I think this. When actually, maybe we agree more than we think.
Yeah, we probably mostly agree on almost all this. But
all right, we'll revisit this soon, and maybe we're gonna go sing KTV tomorrow. So maybe we won't record a podcast, but maybe we'll get Wei-Ming up here and we'll record a Chinese language podcast.
Let's wait and see.
All right, we'll wait and see. But all right, we gotta call it a night. We've been going at this for way too long. So
yeah, I gotta get up early tomorrow.
All right, we'll solve the world's problems tomorrow because that's what we always do. So if you're listening right now, we had fun. Hope you had fun. Thanks for listening. Like, comment, blah 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 blah. But definitely share with your friends because we have 80 followers right now, and it makes us want to cry. And so if you share with your friends, it will exponentially grow, and then we'll be the #1 podcast in the world, which will actually happen never. But thanks for listening. We love y'all. We'll talk to you soon.